Hey there, SMITE fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's a lot of cores. Plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible SMITE experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
And you're telling me an alien wore this?
Hey there, SMITE fans, and welcome to the final day of this week of the SPL. Aggro and Gormizer here to take you through it. And of course, the SPL in Season 8 is powered by Alienware. Got to give a quick shout out to our title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL. Of course, all of our pros are rocking those awesome Aurora R10 Ryzen Edition desktops and the Alienware 25-inch 240Hz monitors. If you want to get your hands on them, and I know I do, if I wanted to, and I do, I'm going to go, excuse me, right now, actually. Let's see here, smitegame.com/Alienware, and there it all is. So that's all you have to do. It was that easy. Gore, I might have destroyed your sheet, by the way. That was on me. It was for a bit, and I recognized that it might have been a problem. So I apologize about that. I didn't.
You said that, and I was like, I wonder where he typed in, though.
No, I could have done a weird query, but I decided against it. Look, again, thanks to Alienware for being the title sponsor for Season 8. Aggro and Gore, as I mentioned, bringing you through what's going to be a really good day here today because we've got some clean matchups coming at you to close out the week. It's the Solar Scarabs and the Camelot Kings first up, and then the Olympus Bolts up against the new-look Tartarus Titans. All of a sudden, Gormizer, the Bolts sliding down, having their first loss of the phase, and the Titans might be on the rise.
And look, if this is the Titans from last week, this is a very, very hard game for them to win. If this is the Titans from a couple of days ago, there's a lot more of a chance for them, and that's kind of the way I see today. The Scarabs have had a lot of good moments, but they haven't converted anything into a win lately.
Yep.
They depending on how they play, can put a lot of pressure on the Kings, or the Kings can do what they did to the Bolts to the Scarabs. And then later today, the Titans, if they show up and play the way that we've seen them capable of at their high end, they could potentially give the Bolts their second loss. But if they show up the way that we've seen, last week in a couple of their sets, it could end up being another wash.
Totally crazy to think that the Bolts could go from 8-0 to 8-2. In the course of 1 week, right?
Yeah.
Coming into phase 2. So very, very interesting to see what happens there. But first, we got to talk about the Scarabs and the Kings. That's our first matchup of the day. And Gore, you mentioned this new look Scarabs team and how they haven't found a win yet, but they've been looking better. A lot of that looking better, I think, due to the jungler Scream.
Yeah, it's almost actually always all been Scream. Like, Stewart has come in, and I think Stewart's filled a very solid role for the team. But Scream, especially because of how important junglers are, it's just so easy to talk about because, homie's come in and he's got an 83% kill participation on the team already.
That's crazy.
You jump in, he's only played 6 games. He's played 6 different gods across all of those games. It showcases the versatility. You've seen a very, substantial jump from what they were doing in phase 1 to where they are now. I will say, admittedly, for whatever reason, they were kryptonite to some top teams prior to the change, and we haven't gotten to see that happen just yet.
Yep.
But they have gotten a lot more consistent in their actual game-to-game. It's not, hey, for some reason they beat the Dragons this week, and then the next week they're struggling against the Valkyries. It's, okay, you know what? We are seeing them consistently push these teams 15, 20 minutes in, giving them a lot of trouble, and then just a couple of scenarios maybe don't quite go their way, and that's where things crumble. So I actually think Scream, veteranship, the jungle play, all of it has really escalated this Scarabs team up, and that's why I'm saying today, if they play well enough, the Kings are going to have some trouble.
I think the Scarabs have gone from this team that had their struggles but had their good moments to now they're in a position where if they play their game plan, they are capable of winning, and it's not requiring some sort of outside focus. And like we said, a lot of that due to the new jungler Scream, who's joining us now for the interview. Scream, good to talk to you, buddy. Hope you've been well. How long has it taken you to readjust to the SPL speed? Do you feel like you're up to your maximum performance quite yet?
Not my maximum, no, but it's awesome just to play back in the league again. I'm getting top end practice again, which is always really fun to play against these great players that I wasn't doing for quite a while for this year. And I think with a little bit of time, I think I could start playing a little bit better than I am right now. Yep.
How do you think that your play style has really meshed with the rest of the Scarabs so far?
These guys, they just want to get in there. Bobby's always trying to get in there, and me, I'm trying to run it down. Simple as that. I think I've really enjoyed playing with these guys, and I think we just need a little bit of time to mesh, but I think we could really get on the same page soon. So
today you're going up against a tough opponent in the Camelot Kings. How do you think your team matches up against them?
The Kings are a great team. They're one of the most consistent teams in the league. They play as like a unit. And we might not be able to do that yet because we're still new, and these guys, they've been practicing all year together. But I think we could pull out some early games, and I think if we get a lead, we can maybe transition that into a win.
All right, Scream, look, I'm not going to ask you to reveal any picks, but it's already kind of chilly here in the studio. If you're thinking about picking Bastet, can you DM me so I can go and get my jacket beforehand, just like for me?
Unfortunately, she's not the best, but maybe.
Yeah, just let me know, man. I got my jacket in my car. As soon as he got picked up, I put it in the car. Hey, good luck today, man. Excited to see the see the games.
Thank you.
Scream there, the jungler for the Solar Scarabs. Look, maybe he's right that the rest of the league is lucky that the Bastet is not particularly good right now, but it doesn't really fit with that style that he was just talking about. The run it down, take fights at enemy back harpies, Fenrir, Erlong Shen, those are the type of picks I expect to see.
To be fair to him, last year Bastet wasn't good either, and he still managed to pull her out for a couple of games.
Fair point.
And looked pretty solid on her in those circumstances. And I think, again, that's the greatness that Scream is bringing. Like, Layers is a good jungler and was a good jungler for the Scarabs, but you could definitely see the lack of experience really coming through. Layers playing for the Titans had a great performance because he didn't need to make any of these make-or-break decisions. Scream has that experience as the jungler to not only help guide this team in the jungle, but to make those decisions split-second by himself without having to stress, is this going to hurt, what Bobby's doing right next to me? Like, no, I know Bobby's going to go in. I can make a decision based off that and have it work out well.
And that's going to be a problem if it doesn't go well if you're the Scarabs here, because the Kings on the other end, so much about their team composition recently, Gore, has been late game, late game, late game. It's variety on Guardians and solo. It's Terra for genetics. It's going towards these late game team fights. And I think that going with the Scarabs, if they identify that they do want to be the aggressive early team in the league, this could be a potentially good matchup for them.
Yeah, the Kings are like the kind of team that will handle you for like 15 minutes. They are just making sure, like, okay, you're not breaking anything, you're not ruining our game. And then 20 minutes in, they say, okay, we win now. Have fun playing the rest of the game. Like,
right.
you're not allowed to engage early on because they're really good at controlling you. But, I mean, look at where most of these highlights are. It's already 15 minutes into this game. And I think Twig is a huge player that signifies that style. Twig has really shifted into, you had highlighted it, but like Fenrir has been really high up on their list, one of the most banned gods against the Kings. Naja was really big for them in phase number 1.
Yeah.
Lately it's been, Gilgamesh, the Osiris, things like that. The Gilgamesh, first off, he's 9-1 on Gilgamesh. He's 6-0 in phase 2 on Gilgamesh. So he has been having some insane games, and every single one of that comes from, I am going to let us play through Netrioid, through BMT. I am going to be the guy that facilitates. I'm going to play a similar style to Genetics. We're going to get in there aggressively. I'm going to isolate somebody. Genetics will isolate someone else. And then our carries can just pick and choose where they want to go. And like you said, it takes a little while. They're farming up a lot. They do get some early blood on their hands, but for the most part, they aren't running away with these games at 10 minutes. They're in control and they're stopping you. But then 15, 20 minutes is where they're actually winning.
I don't know that there's another player in the entire league who understands his role in a given draft better than Captain Twig. Like, that is such a strength of his and the way that he thinks about the game and the way that they like to give him these early stopgap gods to prevent teams from snowballing on them. More weight on his shoulders in this matchup than in most. Let's see what he goes for as we head into picks and bans for game number 1. That Gilgamesh stat definitely jumps off the page at me. And if I'm the Solar Scarabs, that might be one of the first places I'm looking.
It gives me 2 numbers immediately. I guess 3 realistically, thinking back on the Big Man Team's Tiamat combination that is also very deadly. The Scarabs, if I'm looking at them, I don't want to see them lock in the Tiamat. It has not really been treating them that well. But at the same time, I don't want them to give it up. So if it is open, you almost have to first pick it for Baronic.
Right.
And it's not necessarily Baronic doesn't play this as well. It is just the way the team has formed doesn't tend to play around that Tiamat as well.
Right. If they're early game, Tiamat's not particularly early game, so Tiamat doesn't fit that.
Takes a little too long to get online, right?
Right.
And this is actually something, the Kings banned the Yemoja there. I don't think you need to. Bobby's got an 11% win rate this year on Yemoja. Let him have it. You're going to win the game. Like, it's an 11%er off the bat if they first pick it. And so I think that's a god that they should be able to play around with. But it's also, okay, well, if we ban the Yemoja, we can then choose what gods we let through outside of that. I think it'd be awesome if Genetics gets the Yemoja. But you mentioned it. He's been loving the Terra a lot lately. You don't necessarily need to shoehorn yourself into a guaranteed support pick.
Well, Morgan Le Fay is open. That's the pick that is jumping off the page to me. But Fenrir is the first pick for the Scarabs. And look, if you're asking me which god I think is stronger, I think it's probably Morgan Le Fay. But with the identity of the Solar Scarabs and the identity of the Kings and how this match is likely to play out, I think that this pick shows a lot of maturity from the Solar Scarabs. I think this plays into their game plan better than Morgan Le Fay probably would. And I love it. I think that this is a very intelligent first pick.
It's the 4th ban, I guess, that you can get early on while still being a good pick for Scream. It doesn't necessarily strip anything away from yourselves while still being one of the best setups. I mean, you go back to, phase 1 playoffs, like the Dragons, the Bolts, everybody is trying to first pick this Fenrir.
Yep.
And it is treated Twig really well. There's a reason it's a big ban up against the Kings. The thing that I'm noticeably missing right now is there's no Artemis on the board.
Yes, Artemis is still available, and the Kings do not decide to take it. The Solar Scarabs, when they played earlier in the week, were banning Artemis in their first pick slot, both games up against Tartarus Titans. We'll see if they're willing to take it here. The Kings do not. They take Rom instead and lock in that duo lane, interestingly enough.
And I have to say, first off, Ymir is nuts. I can't remember. I'm going to look him up just to make sure I have it. I know Genetics has a ridiculous win rate on this pick.
No surprise.
But I also think that it works not just well with the Kings, but well with Rom. Already you're getting aggressive. He's 4-2 for the Ymir, but the Rom pick has been a little more eye-opening to me as of lately because it's got good clear in the early game, so you're pretty safe on that. He might not have the best escape and survivability in the world, but he's got some escape, and that's better than some hunters like an Artemis. But it really is the ult that I think has been the key because it's kind of that fresh reminder. Not only is it good for stealing objectives, cue Season 2 Snoopy highlights, it's also really good in the beginning of a fight for, say, targeting a Morgan Le Fay and making her half health so she can't do anything that engagement.
Morgan Le Fay and Fafnir are the picks for the Solar Scarabs, so they do not go with the Artemis. I think a team locking in Morgan Le Fay Artemis in their top 3 would have been eye-opening to say the least, but they don't go that direction. And it was one eclectic mage that was hovered, but not locked. Instead, it's Hell, a different one that we don't see very often. Only her 7th game that she's going to be played, but Gore, that win rate looked awfully good. I think 83% across those 6 games.
And I want to say most of those have been Paul, because we were talking about that on Waiting Room, so it's nice to see the Kings pulling it in, but the Kings notoriously have been kind of leaning on those more eclectic picks lately.
And Variety played this Hell when they played earlier this week, so we don't even know if this is necessarily for Big Man.
And honestly, I kind of don't want it to be. Like, Variety looked really good. Variety got a 5-man cleanse. Granted, as of right now, there's no need for a 5-man cleanse because there's only one form of like heavy CC on Fenrir and one form of heavy CC on Fafnir. But still, knowing that you have that capability in the solo lane and that you're confident to lock it in before you see a warrior, a guardian, whatever on the other side, I think speaks wonders, especially going up against Sot, who loves playing, you know, like your Cucullins, your King Arthurs, and being aggressive.
Interesting that the Scarabs have certainly done their homework. They thought of the same thing that we did, that Variety played this Hell more recently. But they double ban mages in Raijin and in Merlin and leave open a couple of junglers potentially here for Captain Twig. Serket comes to mind as something that can be that early game. Robin is something that he's played. So he's got some options still, but maybe Big Man, I mean, this is where the Kings could really flex that flex pick potential. You could make the Scarabs have wasted 2 bans, put this Hell in mid, and pick a warrior for Variety, and all of a sudden, you're feeling good.
Yeah, it's the flexibility, right? It causes so much trouble because nothing's going to feel worse for you if you're the Scarabs here than if you just invested all of that and then it's Big Man playing this Hell anyway, right? Because now you're just opening yourself to a world of hurt. There's so many top-tier solo laners still available. Granted, Odin taken off the board, Osiris, who's been a little more jungle lately, maybe controls that. The Hera speaks wonders, though. This is the other one that I was actually thinking of when I said more eclectic picks.
Yeah.
It's the Hera, because who else is playing Hera and who else is succeeding with her other than the Kings?
Dardez, the only other one who's played Hera so far. It's just been, I believe, Dardez and Big Man Tings who have played it. Now again for Big Man, and I've said that I love it up against the Morgan Le Fay. You drop Argus, she goes,
bye-bye.
Stop. Like, can you not? I can't get this guy off me. And Artemis still open right now. The Kings called the bluff here from the Solar Scarabs. They don't ban the Artemis away from Stewart.
I wanted to, because it felt so weird, right? Like, it's like, man, you first off, you top 2 Rom of all people. He's been kind of falling on the tier list. Netroid 6-1 on Rom. He's been winning overwhelmingly with this pick. I don't think he's too worried specifically about what Stewart has to offer. And I mean, we saw like the Titans when they were going up against them. Cyclone Spin played that Chernobog, was constantly ulting just Stewart to like just isolate him, try to solo him, things like that. I think they're recognizing again a potential open weakness here that the Scarabs have, and trying to, instead of combat the jungle where Scream is, where they know it's going to be strong no matter what, combat maybe a weak link that they can definitely get a good advantage over.
Well, it's no Artemis for Stu. It ends up being the Heimdall, and maybe that Ymir wall seems to be the problem that they don't want to deal with. Also, Argus pretty good against the Artemis. And it's Mercury for Captain Twig. Now this...
the Dragons?
Yeah, seriously. Sam might be the only Mercury player in all of Season 8 that I can recall in the jungle. Maybe Panatom has 1 game on it, but certainly not Captain Twig. This was a good pick of his back in the day. This is a god that he used to be very, very comfortable on, but it hasn't. This does not fit the identity of what he has been picking for the Kings. It isn't the Erlong Shen, the Gilgamesh, the Osiris, these early game sort of gods that to carry you into the late. This is another late game carry that also does happen to have some early game setup.
And if you're looking at the Kings, that's exactly what they want, right? Like, okay, hey, we have a little bit of early game setup, a little bit to coast our way to like 12 to 15 minutes, then we can start taking these engagements that are 3-on-3s thanks to genetics, and because we have Hera that she's going to be able to fight at that point. and then we're going to pivot into a team fight where we have Rom, Hell, Mercury. Good luck in
Yeah.
an engagement like that. I mean, you're getting ulted through everybody. Nobody's able to body block the Mercury. You're getting sniped from the backline, and even if you can dive them, there's a heal, there's a cleanse, there's a lot of capabilities coming from Variety of all people, who
Sure.
played this very well the other day against the Bolts. And if he can make it look good up against, I think it was almost undefeated Ares for Jake, then you know it's going to look good here, especially surrounded by this squad that he has.
This Fenrir, all of a sudden, the targets that he's got, the Ragnarok isn't going to be nearly as effective with that Hell around. We'll see if Scream can avoid the solo lane mage, or if the Kings can keep the heals coming. We got J-Mac and Mifflin bringing you game 1.
Thank you, Aggro. Thank you, Gore. J-Mac and Mifflin here, as mentioned. We've also got Doug on the spectator for it. This is a ticking time bomb of a team that the Camelot Kings have drafted. As mentioned, Hell late game, Mercury late game, Rom late game. I'm terrified going up against that.
But you know what the common denominator between every one of those picks that you just listed? Late, yeah. Okay, well, you got me there. There's more than one, but they're incredibly squishy. This Camelot Kings draft, come late game, is going to be very reliant on genetics solely to be that initiator, to be that front line for their team. I think that, sure, you've got a ton of damage, you've got some additional effective HP thanks to Variety on this Hell, and effective CC immunity thanks to the cleanse as well, but it's a high execution composition. If the Kings pull ahead and they reach that late game a little bit more quickly, sure, they can absolutely blow the Scarabs out of the water, but I'm not sure that I share all the same concerns that the desk did. It's just a very difficult draft to execute on because the dive potential to Solar Scarabs is good, and how many good dive targets are there? Hell, yeah, you want to get onto her. Mercury, if you can, that's pretty nice too. Even Hera, once that ultimate's down, is susceptible.
Captain Twig, leap, Scream, brutalize, immediately canceled out. One more basic is all it's going to take. Scream strikes first blood. Captain Big Man Tings tries to fight back, but not going to be enough.
Man, I like that from Scream. That's a checkmate situation. The second that Twig is hit by the Brutalize, there's only one bit of CC that can follow up there to burn off the Brutalize, and it's his own dash. Has to dash in place to get Scream off of him. Creates so much time for Baronic to just walk on up and deal about 120 damage with his auto attacks, about 40 some odd damage per. Tough situation, and Mercury falling behind, that's not what you want to see.
You can see it was a battle of beads for beads. Half to beads the leap that came from Scream, then immediately Scream uses the beads to get out of the dash from Captain Twig. So a nice little trade out between the two of them, but ultimately the Scares come out on top for it. Solo Troll, well, this is what we expected out of a Hell and solo lane. You're not going to have the best early clear, so you're likely going to be sitting under tier 1 tower.
Yeah, but around level 6, level 7, there's going to be a distinct tonal shift inside of that lane. Variety's already starting to move himself in towards the Breastplate of Valor, that additional CDR and tankiness. Going to be very nice for dealing with SOT, plus all that sustain and damage. Scales incredibly well just with levels. Doesn't necessarily need power inside the early game to start putting out some large numbers, does Hell. So I'm not overly concerned with Variety. The only thing that SOT's really got going for him a couple of levels from now is the fact that Scream's got a good matchup in a Hell. She's got no great way to deal with the Brutalize or even the Ragnarok if he times it properly. And, well, Colin's got a little bit of built-in anti-heal in his kit.
Scream making a rotation towards blue, but not going to commit as it's already down. So Variety will have the buff around his waist. And Captain Twig will spot him out and force Scream to walk away. But look, speaking on to Scream, look at the respect thrown to this man. 5 sets of purification beads to deal with this Fenrir.
I mean, that's just the way of the road when Fenrir's in there. Ragnarok is a death sentence inbound. Trying to step into the red buff there is not quite successful in the invade attempt, and Big Man Tings secures that for his own team. And the Solar Scarabs, or Scream in particular, has made a very clear decision. Wants to just play annoying. Another annoying attempt here from inbound may have cost him his life.
Good wall from Genetics. Will block off the path from inbound. He's trying to run, trying to find an escape route. Stewart is here, but so is Captain Twig. And it looks like inbound may be dead to rights. I say that, but he's going to get a nice little leap away there.
Yeah, Twig, you gotta hit those, bud. You gotta hit those. Genetics already applied the slow. Inbound did not have the leap available as he attempted to steal the purple buff with it. You gotta go. You have to punish those if you're the Camelot Kings, but luckily for Bobby, he does put on the juke shoes a la Shadow Q and walks his way out of there, and that's legitimately what happens. He just walks his way out.
Well, he technically leapt away.
Okay, yes, at the end he leaps away, but for the 13-second interim, he was just walking out.
to the mid Harpies. Scarabs will claim those. Well, claimed one. Forgot to get the last hit on the second one for her. While Scream will go to the Oracle Harpies. A lot of control's been shown where teams really have been going for more of these Oracle Harpies more often than not now. It used to be, it's just Oracle Harpies, but we've seen a lot of teams start to really put an emphasis on them in the early game.
It's a good source of farm. I mean, it's a free war on the map. It's so hard to argue against how strong Oracle Harpies have been, not just now, but since release. I think these teams are doing a great job of contesting them so far. Man, Captain Twig is not allowed to play the game right now. Everywhere he goes, he's getting bullied.
It's going to be a heal. Blinking from Solar Troll. Trying to get some damage. Captain Twig, but Captain Twig is out for the moment. Gets rooted in place. Warcry is available. Not quite enough damage. Big heals coming out of Variety. And a rotation from Genetics may have also just saved his life. Scream is here. Has the Ragnarok. Has the leap available. But he hasn't chosen his target yet. And may be setting sights towards the blue or get somebody to walk forward.
And it is the blue buff pulled by the Camelot Kings. 2 versus 3, not feeling too good about their odds are Scream, so instead backs up. And, well, sure, he has Ragnarok, but no great targets. I mean, CC immunity inside of every single one of their item slots. Speeds available on everybody on the side of Camelot Kings. Scream kind of has to wait for his opportunity or burn the beads himself, and if he goes in there, he probably dies.
Argus dropped by Big Man Tings. Veronic on the run, no help to get him out of there, as Argus will just chase him down. The shots from Netroid will help, but Big Man Tings gets the kill.
Yeah, well played to Big Man Tings. Great rotation. This is something the Solar Scarabs have been doing a lot of recently. It's been a huge emphasis on these early game rotations through these red buffs, these purple buffs. We've seen it in this game on the solo side, a lot of attempts to steal blue, and, well, maybe it's the steal going the way of the Chaos team here. Genetics strips red.
Uses the ult for it as well, just because he can. But now he may be in danger. Scream rotates over, but he's low on mana, so he will not continue the chase. Argus was also still alive for a short while before Big Man sacrifices him to the tower just to continue pushing the jungler away.
Speaking of Big Man Tings, he's been under 0 pressure so far this game. Scream really hasn't had an opportunity to look at him. I mean, nobody's really able to make the rotations this early on, so this Hera has been essentially allowed to free farm for the last 6 or so minutes and already has established herself a Chronos pendant, as has Veronic. There is parity inside of the builds between these mid laners and maybe parity in style. Veronic also going undoped so far, but that is a decision the Camelot Kings are making due to the pacing of their composition. I mean, the desk already highlighted it incredibly well. They're all waiting on their scaling. They all are incredibly strong late game hyper carries, so there's really no rush in the early game right now.
I mean, when you're mid, you're carry, and we'll even call this Hell one of your carries as she waits towards the late game, but hold that Sonic Boom in the right lane. Solar Troll gets thrown back to the collections of Variety. A little bit more damage necessary. Captain Twig will grab it immediately into the Ragnarok. Variety doesn't have the cleanse available. Captain Twig will fall under the tower and a trade out for Scream.
Tough one for Captain Twig. Variety uses the cleanse early on to avoid the Cullen ultimate for both him and Captain Twig, and it was good, but does leave them susceptible to a Ragnarok. And now Genetics finally on the rotation over, spots out inbound, and says, look, let's pick up the blue buff. At the end of the day, making sure our Hell pulls ahead, I think is pretty valuable. SOT does fall. Sure, Captain Twig falls in exchange, but I think Variety might be your most important piece right now on the side of Camelot King, so Captain Twig should be happy with what he was able to accomplish.
Kind of going back to the point I was trying to get to before the fight broke out is when these carries, these mages and hunters don't feel threatened by a Fenrir, that should be a telltale sign to Scream of you need to get some more pressure going through there, have inbound, get some good setup where you burn those beads, because Variety, he's got 2 forms of CC immunity with it. He's got his own cleanse and he's got the purification beads. So if it's Variety and anyone else with him, you've essentially nullified your targets.
Yeah, Scream's going to have a very hard time rotating into the soul lane in a 2v2 situation. If he's not ulting Variety, he's likely not getting value from his ultimate. But I wouldn't put that all on Scream's plate. I mean, he's been doing incredibly well so far. Establishes first blood for his team, has consistently been looking for pressure, is keeping up in farm with Captain Twig, who has ganked a couple less times than Scream has. So if anything, I want to see Bobby get a little bit more involved on the map. This Fafnir needs to start creating some opportunities so that the Fenrir can use that ultimate aggressively.
Burn a couple sets of beads, throw a hammer or 2 out there, but Bobby's been very quiet so far this game, sitting goose eggs across the board, well, for both supports, but we've seen Genetics show presence on that right side of the map. He's been at these blue buffs, I believe twice now, he's made a rotation to that side.
Yeah, Genetics is going for a much faster build, though. It goes immediately into the Sovereignty. It's trying to be that bridge that the desk brought up to the late game for the Camelot King, so wants to get involved a little bit earlier on, whereas Inbound, going for that Gauntlet of Thieves in the first slot, is kind of hampered a little bit in his ability to get involved, wants to wait for those stacks to come through to get his survivability available to him. So it makes sense that the Fafnir is taking a slightly slower pace, but doesn't mean you can't just throw out a couple hammers for fun.
He's got to just throw it out there. Why not? Maybe you get a set of beads. Maybe you don't. You get a little damage, sow some presence. That's the big factor for Inbound versus Genetics. Is Genetics is across the map, and Scream is now over on the opposite side of the map, looking for Netrioid, but may have just walked over a ward. Netrioid's going to know he's there. He's still going to walk towards that jungle. Stewart will invade the Harpy. Netrioid continues walking forward, but he's got the rest of his team on rotation. Scream takes the purple buff away, but Genetics and Inbound in sight. Sonic Boom into the backline. Ragnarok from Scream to run away, but Ragnarok's not going to help Inbound. He's caught out in the middle of 4, and Netrioid will get the last basic.
Oh man, the Camelot Kings sprung a trap card on the Solar Scarabs trap card. The Solar Scarabs were starting to posture over there. They wanted to look for the purple buff to invade, potentially go for the kill on a Netrioid, and Netrioid says, I'm going to step up here, I'm going to bait the Scarabs forward because I know my team's right behind them, and that's exactly how it goes. Scream finds the double Unchained stun, but realizing that there's 3 members of the Kings there, can no longer chase it.
Ult out of Baronic just from the freeze from Genetics. That's going to be one form of safety gone. Still holding on to Purification Beads, though, making sure he keeps the more important cooldown for him available. Meanwhile, to the solo lane, we just see solo laners do solo lane things, though it is a mage over here fighting a warrior. Variety keeping up.
Yeah, I wouldn't say keeping up. Variety's winning.
Winning.
Yeah, he's up a level. He's got a ton of damage output. He's outscaling come late game. He's already winning the trades. He's controlling the Totem of Zaku. Hell's hit that power spike now where she's not really concerned about Kakulin himself. SOT, if he wants to put any threat onto Variety, is going to need the rotation of Scream or Baronic, preferably Baronic, because it is a ton of physical defense stacked up already by Variety. I think he's kind of got out of the hot water. I mean, generally when you talk about Hell, it's sure she's got an incredibly strong late game, but she's an immobile mage in the early. We can shut her down. Well, no longer the case. He's already moving into the Enchanted Kusari as well. Has the Heavenly Sprint and beads. Not even sure that he's used beads so far this game. Variety is sitting pretty.
Riding coast in that solo lane. As you mentioned, magic defense coming online now, so he can deal with Baronic and Inbound when they decide to rear their heads to that side of the map. But Variety's just sitting pretty. Scream gets around the wall from Genetics. And Inbound looking for a target, maybe Netrioid, who's stepping a little far forward. The rest of the Camelot Kings will respond by taking the Pyromancer. And Inbound not stepping too far forward. Netrioid's doing fine over on that left side. Meanwhile, the Kings do take Pyromancer, but a response immediately to Gold Fury.
They have to be worried about Netrioid, who has the snipes available, and Big Man Ting's already hovering on the outskirts.
Gold Fury to half. Big Man Ting's caught out by Scream, who uses the Ragnarok. Big damage comes out of Big Man. Aegis comes through. Argus as well. That's going to be 1 kill, but Netrioid returns the favor with a double kill of his own, taking down Scream with the snipes. SOT and Stewart running away. The Gold Fury leashed back up to full, but they're still looking for more. Captain Twigs and Genetics chasing down Solar Troll. It's going to get the beads off the freeze.
Slow isn't there from Genetics, and now Variety and Netrioid finally rounding the corner, try and keep the chase up, but it is at the end of the day a 2-for-1 trade in favor of the Camelot Kings, and with Variety still hovering here, it's just Captain Twig low HP, and Variety, well, he's playing Hell, and he's level 13, so just a couple of heals gonna put him right back up, and Rage already has 2 stacks on it, so you know this Gold Fury is getting shredded. Camelot Kings picked that one up. Solar Scarabs have the right call, the right idea. They hear the Pyromancer go down, they immediately respond. Within just about 3 or 4 seconds, start pulling the Gold Fury. I think they have to leave it up to the coin toss there. It's just Big Man Tings and Netrioid in range to contest. If the Solar Scarabs with their 4-man core commit to the DPS on Gold Fury, I think there's a pretty good chance that they get it for themselves. They might not be able to win out in the team fight after, but they dedicated themselves to that team fight, and they didn't win it anyway.
burned quite a bit to try to go for the Gold Fury, but the fight was the more important thing for the Kings. They didn't care about the Fury. They cared about the fight after. Inbound is starting to care a little bit about this crit coming online for Captain Twig. He's already responded in kind with a Spectral Armor for his second item.
That makes sense, especially considering Twig's going for the Wind Demon path, which means he's likely going to go for a Deathbringer a little bit later on, which is just a metric ton of crit. That is the scientific name of it. SOT in a little bit of trouble.
SOT under siege by 2. Captain Twig holding on to the dash. Cleanse is good at a variety. Just for Cleanse's sake, SOT transforms, goes with the War Cry, but he's in danger, has to run away under half health.
Inbound, hovering on the edge, and Scream decides, all right, fight fizzled, I don't need to rotate in. And at the end of the day, there's not much to fight over right now. It's only about 2,000 gold separating these two teams, but Pyromancer and Gold Fury are already down. If we see any sort of aggression, I'm expecting it to be closer to the center of the map, maybe around these Tier 1 towers once these Soul Laners decide to rotate out, especially Variety, who's already established himself a 2-level lead over his lane opponent inside of SOT, and, well, he stripped away the tower as well. Not much going to keep him tethered to his lane.
That last little fight by the Fury is the only time we've seen Big Man Tings under stress. Outside of that, he's been sitting pretty in mid lane. Nobody's really set their sights towards this Heron. Hera's fairly immobile. She has a little bit of a boost of speed when she gets that shield on, but outside of that, it's as long as you dodge the polymorph, force the Argus out, then you're good. Problem is you got to force that Argus, and he hasn't needed to.
It's a pretty sizable health shield, and Argus does have that knock-up for appeal. It's not the easiest thing on the planet to deal with Hera. I'd say it's almost equivalent to dealing with a Morgan Le Fay, except you can kind of react to polymorph and beats it before it hits you, whereas Dragonflight, if you're a little bit late, you're getting knocked up either way. That said, I think you're right, man. Big Man Tings needs to have some more pressure tossed his way from the Solar Scarabs. I'm looking at SOT on the rotation out. I'm looking at Inbound. We haven't really seen him utilize the Dragon Transformation to the greatest effect as of yet. But once he does, it's like the longest leap in the game. We're already talking about how immobile Hera is. Could create an opportunity for him to find some lockdown CC, but he's got to be careful. It's a 5-level deficit between him and BMT.
About 2,500 gold separate the two teams here, around 16 minutes, 3-5 on the scoreboard. Despite the first blood going away to the Scarabs, the Camelot Kings have pulled themselves back up. You can see about halfway into the game so far is where they've begun to push their lead. It's really starting to show some control on the map. They took Pyromancer earlier. They were able to snag that Fury after the fight with the Scarabs, which pushed them away. Now they're waiting for the next big objective to respawn. Pyromancer will be the first one up.
Man, speaking of the Fury, it's so unfortunate for the Solar Scarabs. Had they decided to coin toss it, even if they lose out on it, it would have synced up the timer with the Pyromancer. But now that the timers are so desynced, I mean, Camelot Kings can go to Pyro, force a fight there, either take the objective uncontested, or if they do win out in the team fight, likely look at the Fire Giant, or if it's uncontested, take it and then walk over to Gold Fury before it respawns. They've really split the map well.
Stewart sniffed out this rotation. Captain Twig will use the Sonic Boom anyways, just to take down the Tier 1 tower. Variety has rotated all the way to the left side of the map. Are they looking to just shove down this left side? It seems so. Give Stewart no safety thresholds.
Yeah, I mean, SOT's over in solo. There's 2 members in mid. Tier 2 tower is pretty valuable. It seems like Big Man Tings is fine with letting that one go, and now the bastion of safety that are your towers inside of the duo lane have been removed from the game. Camelot Kings pull themselves even further ahead, now closer to 3,000, but unfortunate timing for them. Pyromancer has spawned on the other side, and Solar Scarabs should be able to pick that one up uncontested, but the larger objectives are still going to be available. Fire Giant still on the map, and Oni Fury going to rejoin the map in just a couple of moments.
And we'll see where the Camelot Kings shift their focus towards. They heard the Pyromancer go down, so you see a few rotate over just to make sure no one's doing the Fire Giant, though they did have a ward. Instead, they'll be the ones who turn towards the Fire Giant. Pyromancer's down. Everybody had already back to base. Fire Giant's getting shredded. Argus dropped in the process with it. They're just going to get this Fire Giant. No one from the Scarabs able to get there in time. Solar Troll a little bit late to the party. Has to use the beads from the dash out of Captain Twig. He's stuck in the middle of 5. Scream jumps in as well. But Solar Troll is going to be the one to fall. Dragon comes out from inbound. They're able to take down Twig with the help of Baronic. Now Netroid is under fire, well under half health. Leap in from Scream, gets another big stun. Netroid running, but Scream able to take him down.
Good wall from Genetics. Make sure that Scream doesn't walk out of there for free, but Stewart and Inbound are on the chase.
Too much damage coming out of Stewart. They'll take down another Variety. Manages to find Ironic in the midst of it. Inbound very low. Big Man Ting takes him out for the double kill. Stewart, the last man left alive. Double kill for Stewart. Now fighting against the solo laner, but Variety will end it all and get a deicide for the Kings.
Solar Scarabs, though, gotta give props where they're due, are able to at least strip away Fire Giant from 4 members of the Camelot Kings. At the end of the day, 5-for-4 trade favored the Chaos team, and Variety, the sole remaining member, walks away with a Fire Giant buff around his belt. That was a crazy back and forth engagement. MVP for the Scarabs has to go to Scream, who somehow finds not 1, not 2, 3 multi-man stuns on his Unchained throughout that entire team fight, setting up his team and creating the space for them to be able to walk back in there. And then we got to talk about Variety's thin margins on these cleanses. I mean, Stewart tries to use that ultimate. If he is successful in doing so, likely separates the engagement and takes the 1v1 up against Variety while Big Man Tings is traveling through the cosmos. But instead, Variety, just a couple steps ahead, turns that one around. I think it comes down to target selection there from the Solar Scarabs. At no circumstance should it be Hell and Hera as the last 2 remaining members to fight it out for the Camelot Kings, because, well, that means that Hell likely got major value throughout the entirety of that team fight just thanks to her healing.
With Variety, the sole man left with the Fire Giant. The sights are now set towards the Oni Fury. Vision control, as far as on the Fury, goes in favor of the Kings, though there is a ward by Inbound that got set just earlier. Everybody's starting to group around, seeing who's going to pull the trigger. We did see Tier 1 tower fall as well. Variety was able to pick that one up off the back end of that bloodbath at the Fire Giant. Gold Fury started. Solar Troll and Inbound, the ones tanking it up. Sonic Boom being charged by Twig, but not going to pull the trigger just yet. Inbound well under half health, and he is shredded instantly. Argus dropped onto 2 players. Stewart has to run, but a massive wall by Genetics stops him. Sonic Boom in the back line. Captain Twig finds 2. He's on the run. Sigil saves his life for a moment, but Veronic will ultimately fall to Variety.
Genetics uses the wall and pins 3 members of the Solar Scarabs against the Oni Fury itself. You do not see that often. That is exclusive Genetics tech as far as I'm concerned, and it completely changes the face of that engagement. 3 members dead on the Scarabs. Bobby dies essentially in slow motion, looks like, leaps in, finds the disarm, eats a freeze from Genetics, and dies immediately off of it like a train wreck. Could not look away. Finally rejoins the realm of the living just in time to watch that left side Phoenix go down. And Camelot Kings, they got what they came for, like bandits in the night. Gonna walk back, pick up the Oni Fury.
Push themselves to a near 6,000 gold lead, and that's only going to get worse now that this Oni Fury comes through. We get a nice little replay, and as you said, it was a freeze immediately into death. Too much damage on the back end from Big Man Tings with the polymorph, with the clap, and then Argus dropping in the midst of all of it. Just complete and utter chaos against the Scarabs.
Bro, the Camelot Kings clearly loaded in with an inside agent here, man. That's collusion. We got to talk to the SPL commissioner. Clearly, the Oni Fury is playing favorites. It just locks the Solar Scarabs against that wall for, admittedly, only about a second and a half, but a second and a half in Smite might as well be a full year in team fight terms, because the Camelot Kings were given so much time to just walk up, close the gap, and stomp the Scarabs thanks to that positional advantage. And as you already stated, this gold lead has now started to balloon out of control. We're talking 7,000 in favor of the Chaos team, 22 minutes into this one. And there's still 2 Tier 2 towers standing for them to strip away. Free caches of gold on the map. Pyromancer spawning very soon as well, and the Camelot Kings have timers on it all.
Scream and Twig will spot each other in the jungle. Left side, you saw how much commit it took to kill the Oni fire minions that started pushing up left lane. Minions have been dealt with in both mid and duo lane. Solo, the only one with Oni minions still pushing forward, and that'll be the call for the Kings to try and take this final tower off the map for the right side, I should say. There is still the Tier 2 in mid with help of the minions and Netroid's damage. They will take it down.
Now they're going to back up. It's almost deja vu of that left-hand side. Going to go ahead and pick up the neutral objective map now. Pyromancer being looked at by the Camelot Kings. And the Solar Scarabs look like they're almost willing to step up here, likely for the Fire Giant itself. And I like this call. If Fire Giant goes the way of the Kings, I'm not sure how the Scarabs are going to defend against all this sustain.
Inbound has to leap away. One more CC, all it could take for him to go down, just like last fight. No beads available for him. Sigil dropped. SOT in the back. Gets a 2-man ult, still looking for more on the chase. Transformation out of inbound, gets a stun on Genetics. Leap in from Scream. He's gonna pick up
Great
one.
wall.
Next Royal falls down. The wall is good, but not enough to save the Hunter. Captain Twig uses the Sonic Boom, but doesn't find anything off the back end.
Man, Scream is doing so much for his team right now. Every single one of these picks is thanks to the Ragnarok. And well, I got to talk about how hard it is to find Ragnarok, by the way. 5 beads and a hell on the other side means that you have to be very choosy with your targets. Somehow Scream always choosing right.
Scream uses 1 lead, but still has the Brutalize to get away. Genetics at half. Big wall's going to lock
no.
Baronic in place and nowhere to go and no leaps. No way around the wall. Baronic falls, and maybe more on top of that. Stewart manages to get to the Bifrost, but he's surrounded by 3. 1 more basics, all that's needed. Big hammer, and another stun comes from Scream to temporarily save his life, but it was only temporarily. Scream running from Big Man Tings. Tings just needs 1 more cooldown. He'll use Argus to chase him, but not able to close the gap, and fortunately at least SOT all alone, and they pick up a double kill.
Scream overstays a little bit too long, trying to make sure Fire Giant doesn't go the way of the Kings, and instead cost him his life and cost him the life of Baronic, and now the Camelot Kings primed to look at the Titans.
They're going to head straight to the throne room. It's only inbound on defense against 5, and there's not much that a lone Dragon Man can do. Titan will go down inevitably with inbound falling in the process. 18-8 end it. The Camelot Kings with a big win for their first game of the set.
Solar Scarabs, though, are getting proactive on the map. They are clearly trying to make attempts to control the early game, due in large part to the efforts of Scream. Looks incredibly good on that Fenrir, but the Camelot Kings with a incredibly strong late game draft make it to the late game and then win the late game. Go figure.
Well, takes. Get the late game with a late game comp. You're going to win it through. Camelot Kings do so, and we're going to take it to a break. We'll come back with the desk right after.
What's up, Smite fans? Dolson here, and if you haven't already, you want to make sure you're checking out twitch.tv/SmiteGame on Mondays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, because we are doing the team content days where we bring in one of your favorite SPL teams, we sit down and do all sorts of crazy content with them. We've got Emotion.
Let's go!
Holy moly, man! We've got Mifflin throwing himself at the green screen. We've got plenty of actual informative content around all of your favorite Smite players and teams themselves.
Because we weren't really thinking about like the console. We were thinking about like how can we beat the PC teams.
So make sure you tune in on Mondays from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time to twitch.tv/SmiteGame. And hey, don't worry, if you can't catch it there, you can't catch it live, make sure to go to youtube.com/SmitePro to catch the VODs after the fact. It's a whole lot of fun. You don't want to miss it because hey, you never know what's going to happen.
Yep. That's, chat. You just gotta know who's daddy. That's just how it be, man.
Welcome back, everybody. A Game 1 victory for the Camelot Kings, really carried on the back of some great frontline play from Variety and Genetics. But before we get into breaking down that game further, got to give a quick shout-out to Inside Apparel, of course, our apparel sponsor for Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. Shop.smiteproleague.com. Get gear from your favorite teams and your favorite league right there, SMITE Pro jersey and hoodie. The SMITE Pro hoodies, rather, are incredibly comfortable. I was wearing one the other day. Big recommend on those. Again, shop.smiteproleague.com, the place to go. Thanks again to Inside Apparel. Gore, look, I mean, in the early game, the Scarabs did what they wanted to do. We're aggressive. Scream gets first blood on right side mid-harpies. He looks to be aggressive throughout the game. But it felt like the dual lane for the Kings really were able to slow the pace of this game down and buy them some time in order to get towards that strong late game.
Yeah, you could see where Inbound and where Scream were really trying to get things to happen. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but always trying to get something to happen. But like you said, Genetics early on is just controlling them. That Ymir is so good at slowing things down. But then you also transitioned beautifully into just Variety, period. Like, just the way he played with this team, like you had mentioned, I think coming off of that set, the front line that Variety is able to provide, not just in terms of damage that Hell has some ridiculous outputs for and Variety capitalized on, but the healing, that cleanse right there. I mean, it opened up so much to the point I was saying I wish we had gotten a double deicide, because I'm not sure that we've ever seen one in the SPL. I think we've seen like one competitive one maybe in the SCC, but even then, it's such a bizarre area to be in. But there's so much to try and counter here if you are the Scarabs. I mean, you're trying to get aggressive. Let's say you're Scream, you jump in. Cool, now there's a wall, there's a freeze, there's something waiting for you. There's a heal on the other side. And just slowly but surely, they use Big Man Tings and this Hera early on to guide themselves right into the late game where they needed where Twig could really start to pop off. I think he was like 0-2 at one point, Ins 2-3, Netroid goes 4-2. I mean, really gets to kind of step it up towards the latter half. And I like what the Scarabs had to offer. Unfortunately, the Kings put the gloves on and, again, came at it at the appropriate angle.
Scream got off to a good start in this game, but for my money, think didn't spend enough time in that solo lane. Let Variety get a little too far into the build before it ended up mattering. And with that, the Kings end up winning Game 1. Got to take a quick break before we get into Game 2 and give a shout-out to maybe the most dedicated SMITE fan I have ever seen, Shelba-saurus72 on Twitter. SPL to help with labor pains. Watching the SPL while getting prepared to bring the next great SMITE fan into the world, Shelba-saurus72. We're all thinking of you. Hope it's nice and easy, as easy as it could be, I suppose.
We need to start making like onesies for all the teams and for the league.
Like,
I've seen a lot of I can't remember who it was. Someone had tweeted a picture of like a toddler or younger in a full team jersey. If we make onesies, look, I'm just saying, you could rep them like from the get-go. Day one, SPL fan, they could choose their team right now.
There it is. Just pick their favorite color, and they're gonna love their jersey or hoodie or whatever. That's good marketing right there, Gormizer. Getting them early. You know, that's what you got to do at times. Just like never mind. I'm not gonna go with that joke. I'm gonna pass that one up. Getting ready now for Game 2 between these Kings and the Solar Scarabs. I think that as I'm looking at how picks and bans went in Game 1, Gore, and what adjustments I would want to make if I'm the Solar Scarabs, I think that the Fenrir top pick still makes sense to me. Fafnir, Morgan Le Fay were their next two. And that's where I think that the draft got a little muddier than maybe the Scarabs had planned.
Well, and you kind of mentioned, like, Hera has become this not exact counter to Morgan Le Fay, but a really good match against Morgan Le Fay, where she's going to give her way more troubles than you need, and unless your team is really heavily peeling for this Morgan, Arcus is going to cause so much problems from level 5, from the get-go. You already have this good fight. And so it's one of those changes of, okay, you see this Hell, they ban out Raijin, they ban out Merlin. If you lock in the Morgan Le Fay there, either the Kings then lock in a Hera, and you just go, well, damn.
Right.
Not much we could do about that one. But maybe you replace the Merlin or the Raijin. I'd probably lean towards the Merlin with that Hera ban to make sure that you could, again, try to slow that down and give Baronic a much easier lane.
Baronic definitely had some struggles up against that Hera, but as you mentioned, a pretty tough matchup for him. I expect a Hell ban, personally, or a significant change in how they want to play it. But your 2v2 on that side of the map was Fenrir Cullen. Cullen has anti-heal built in. Pressure in lane. If you aren't able to make blue buff invades happen off of that situation, I don't know where you are making it happen.
Yeah, I think there's, like you had said, Scream didn't spend as much time over there just in general as you would expect. And I think that was where maybe some of this, like, you could probably run that game back and just have him pivot and things change at least a little bit. Maybe the Kings still come out on top, maybe they don't. But at least at the end of the day, Scream is focused in a perfect position to help out mid and to try and counter variety early on. But if you're looking at the bans you had mentioned from game one, I mean, Osiris, Gilgamesh were two of the bans from the Scarabs. Those, I think, still belong up there. That Erlong Shin is the one that I think is a little more manageable. And compared to what we've seen out of this hell the last 2 games, or however many from variety, I think it is worth throwing it out up there. I mean, there's only a couple of people that you are trying to ban this in the top 3 against. One of them can be Paul, and it depends on where she is in the meta and if he just played her in the last game. I think this is one of those cases where you should probably trade that one out.
Let's see if that's the adjustment the Scarabs make, as we are ready to go now for game number 2. Stick in that first pick position. Remember, it's a Scarabs' decision on where they want to go, so they hold onto that first pick slot. And the other thing that I'm taking away from picks and bans in game 1, Gore, Artemis not banned by either team.
Yeah.
Not picked by either team. Rom and Heimdall were their options instead. Somewhat telling, I think, if I'm the rest of the league looking at how this set goes way.
And I think and looking back towards the Scarabs' last set, we had a Rom game and we had an On Her game. We didn't have Artemis games. Granted, Artemis was banned by the Scarabs that time around. And so maybe that's just something Stuart isn't as confident on. And maybe that's something that needs to be worked on for them. And, I mean, if Netroid, because Netroid locked in, it was Ymir Rom for their top 2.
Right.
I think it is something that they are more than happy to go back to over and over again if they know that they can take that matchup.
Exact same so far for the Solar Scarabs and the Camelot Kings. Osiris, Erlong, Gilgamesh bans into a Fenrir pick for the Scarabs. Yamoja, Odin, Tiamat bans from the Kings. And as you just said, it was Ymir Rom in these top 2 for them last time around, solidifying that duo lane. And that's really where the focus of the Kings was in the early game. And this is a different way to take attention away from your late game. It used to be your late game was in the duo lane, so they were picking early game in the jungle. Now their late game was in jungle and solo, so they picked early game on the left side of the map and incentivized the Scarabs to try and help out in that lane. Kings really throwing different curveballs at teams. It's the same overall recipe, just changing the ingredients within.
And you've got to imagine, like, this Ymir, it has been a premier pick. I mean, it was a 70% win rate across the league. Not just for genetics, not just for, like, you know your Jakes. Like, everyone who has been playing this has been winning most of their games. And so you've got great control. We saw some brilliant freezes, brilliant walls. I mean, you could take any Ymir game, just a single game from the Kings for genetics, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a great Ymir montage. Good walls, good freezes, all sorts of setup for his team where they're not stressed about it. You get this Rom, which again was really good for some counter engage. You get good snipes. He's relatively safe. And combination with the Ymir, he can get aggressive early on, as you had highlighted for that early game. And I think this is a great top 2 from the Kings once again.
Looking good in game 1. Why not go back to it in game 2? It's Heimdall, Morgan Le Fay. And if you would have told me for the Scarabs coming into the set that they get Fenrir, Morgan Le Fay, and an ADC, and by the way, Artemis isn't banned, I'm like, oh my god, they got Fenrir, Morgan Le Fay, Artemis in their top 3? That's insane. But again, they decide not to go with that and to go with the Heimdall instead, where they got this pick 9th overall last time. They take it 4th overall this time around. But this tells me that they want to make a weird switch up with the front line that maybe they don't want to tip their hand to.
That would be the only excuse, right? Because, like, let's face it, it didn't necessarily stand up to the crazy performance that you would need out of a Hunter. And they already have Rom, 1, but 2, Heimdall's like 3rd, 4th on the list right now. He's not really where everybody's going to. So it has to be something that they're leaning into for these bottom 2. But I like the adjustments. The big issue I have, at least up to this point, is that Ymir, Rom, Hell, all 3 of those were really integral to the victory for the Kings.
Yep.
And looking back towards it, the Bolts, they dealt with that Hell in game 1. They banned that second in their second game up against the Kings, trying to wrap that down. But ultimately, it's something that if they feel like they can counter, we had mentioned if Scream spends some more time over there to shut down Variety, they could find a much better matchup.
Certainly possible, and this time they wanted to deal with the Hera, which was problematic for Veronica in the mid lane. They take that away. Merlin is the god that gets through in difference between the bans for the Scarabs. That's the only different ban because the Kings have gone with the exact same from game 1 themselves, and straight back to Mercury for Twig.
I mean, 90% of the Kings side of the draft right now is literally the exact same. The only reason they're changing anything is because Hera was banned, but it's exactly what we had said earlier, right? If you have to change the mid lane bans, don't ban Merlin, ban the Hera. Try to deal with that a little bit better for the Morgan Le Fay and keeps things under control. When I look at the Kings right now, I am a little worried about Ymir Rom in the dual lane. That is going to be troublesome early on. But Hell and Mercury is something that I know can sit for a little while. It's going to need to marinate before it can really start hitting as hard as it can.
The Scarabs need their front line locked in. Wouldn't hate this Fenrir going to support in this instance. Giving Scream something else in the jungle. Still early game slanted. I think that's the right direction to attack this Kings roster. And the way that the Scarabs like to play their roster. But giving something aggressive here to Bobby's wouldn't be a bad idea. Cirquette still open. That 100% anti-heal on last breath looking pretty attractive.
It's one of the best ways to counter it. I mean, like Odin Cage is down, but anything that you can find that has that anti-heal, I think that's another reason the Cerberus ban is really, really helpful, is to kind of control it. But I guess if you can't beat them, join them.
Well, speaking of attractive, Aphrodite gets locked in there. I assume for the solo lane for the Solar Scarabs. Can't imagine it's going to be Aphrodite support. And like you said, if you can't beat them, join them. And it is Sobek there. So you still get some dedicated anti-heal coming out of your front line. It was Cullen last time. Now you have Sobek. But Aphrodite trying to match that sustain that you saw. And Afro Fenrir, they get in there. You know, that's what you want paired with your Aphrodite, a god that gets in there and gets their hands dirty.
So while the matchup against Morgan Le Fay might not be the best, I actually now kind of want the Merlin. Like, as much as I was talking about how I didn't want you to ban it, Divine Ruin just screams so loudly to me right now as something that would be fun to pick up. Anything that is going to be able to apply an anti-heal pretty regularly and control the Aphrodite. Single target healing, a lot more manageable than what this Hell is going to be able to provide, as well as any capabilities to specifically lock her down. Anything that can just kill her, force her ult, force her beads that I'm going to assume she's going to have. Anything to make her feel uncomfortable will be a win.
It isn't the Nox, which I was going to lose my mind over. I think that pick wouldn't have made any sense at all for the Kings.
Or any sense at all.
Right.
In general.
Yeah,
for
period. Right, exactly. But they go with the Giannis, which is good with their draft, but I don't know if it's particularly good against the Scarabs draft. You were mentioning Divine Ruin. Giannis may be the poorest Divine Ruin applier among the mages.
Maybe, I mean, at this point, you could pivot it onto the Hell. Like, I mean, it's not necessarily the solo lane item that I think Variety is going to be, like, just hankering to pick up, but it is something that you can still apply big AoE for damage, and we saw Variety in the middle of those fights, so it could still be very, very easily applied just from elsewhere, which means early on, it's not going to be as helpful. But it also feels like an Aphrodite solo, so you're not going to need it as early on, at least not in mid.
So if it's not going to be Divine Ruin necessarily for the Giannis, Mercury's not building Brawler's Beatstick. It doesn't work with him. Is he going to have to go Toxic Blade or Shadow Steel Shuriken? You know, you're going to see a Pestilence or a Contagion. But where else? I mean, you have to build an Ankh if you're the Kings because none of your other characters apply that anti-heal super well.
You think about it, like Cerberus banned, Odin banned, Sobek on the other side, Bacchus not really great right now. So like all of the immediate anti-heal, like okay, cool, those are available. Chang'e as well, not really meta and not necessarily regarded as something high. And days of yore, like with Hell rising up, if Aphrodite rises up alongside her, I expect to start seeing Chang'e solo become a thing again. But in this matchup, I mean, it has to be not just the Divine Ruin for the Hell, but you might even have to see Rom potentially change his build for the Toxic Blade. As you had highlighted, Mercury probably pivots to have that. Again, maybe not in the early game, but probably before the crit, just to help have something online for your team. Again, but the lucky thing is, they don't have to worry about it as much early on, unless we see Sot making some absolutely nuts rotations, or they are doing some really crazy things, and this is going to be like a support Aphrodite. It's not going to be as problematic in the first 10 minutes. It's going to be a 10-minute plus god that is just frustrating.
God help me if this is Aphrodite support, man, because you're going to hear my mic go absolutely just crazy as soon as I throw this to J-Mac and Mifflin. Yeah, Bazinga. Thanks, Miff. Let's throw it down to them to see if it is Aphrodite support coming game 2.
Fingers crossed, solo, and it will be solo lane Aphrodite. Going for solo or troll, making it a mage lane. What season are we in, Mifflin?
8.
8.
Yeah.
When was the last time we saw double mage solo?
I don't know, man. Like season
2, 3.
I wouldn't be surprised if season 7. I don't know, man. Not often, to speak to your point.
2 healers to boot on that as well.
Yeah, they're
two
both healers. Yeah, they're
2
healing.
healers, 2 mages in solo. At least they get a blue buff to their benefit.
Yeah, they'll have more mana and CDR. It's going to be a slow lane. I think Variety will probably have the advantage insofar as Poke, but SOT is going to heal more inside of the early game, at least for himself, so it's going to be very difficult. I think at the end of the day, Variety's going to have a lot of damage. I mean, it's going to be a wet noodle fight over there, but maybe not, because like they hit hard and they're both squishy, but they're both healing all the time. It's effective HP. I'm kind of interested in just watching it. I wouldn't mind if we just like spectated the solo lane the whole match and just see how that one pans out. I was just kidding, Doug. You don't have to do this.
No, go for it.
heal a
No,
lot.
he asked for it. We're going to watch. We're going to see how this solo lane matches up, and it's just wave clear. And Variety getting a little bit of poke on SOT. Inbound will walk forward. Throw some damage at Genetics. Genetics isn't worried. It's hardly anything. It's mostly just for lane pressure for Bobby and Stewart.
Yeah, for now, I think it's a pretty quiet game across the board. If anyone's going to be setting the pace early, it'll be who set the pace early last game. The Scream on this Fenrir was really able to establish that pressure, and that's exactly what I was talking about here in the solo lane. Variety showing that Hell's kind of got the boxing advantage. She does more damage, and she does it from further away more often than not. Back off puts you in melee range, and if you step up into melee range against Hell, well, you're going to get hit by her third ability. That doesn't feel so good.
Big man Tings needs a chunk of damage. Another thing with it too is Variety can heal his own minions. SOT can't. And that's where you're seeing a lot of the struggle come through is Variety has a full minion wave still. No matter how many abilities SOT is thrown at these minions, they're going to his tower line every single time.
That'll stop around level 6 once the Lovebirds deal a little bit more damage. But for now, it is going to favor this Hell, and he is doing a great job of exploiting this matchup in the meantime. It's really up to Scream, I think, to make this rotation happen early on, but Scream faces the same difficulties that he did in Game 1. There's 5 bead selections by the Camelot Kings, and not a whole ton of CC for them to really utilize in the early. Inbound inside of the support can burn beads, single target as it is with Pluck, but he's stuck over here in the duo lane, so it's not really helping out too much for Variety, and it's not really putting too much pressure onto Twig or even Big Man Tings at this point.
Scream looking for a path. He'll find Captain Twig. We saw this in Game 1. We'll see if it's a repeat for him. Beads thrown immediately in response to the dash. But Variety's here for some big heals and some big damage. Jump in by Scream onto 2 of them. Captain Twig against the wall. Only has heals for Variety. It's not enough. Scream yet again will draw first blood and still may be looking for more.
Yeah, Scream doing a great job just leveraging that early game. Captain Twig isn't allowed to fight Fenrir. I mean, pre-5, that is a awful matchup for Mercury, and now Variety caught out.
Brutalized. Heal is good, but it's not good enough. The Lovebirds were on him, and that's going to be an immediate kill. Baronic gets a solo kill on Big Man Tings. Stewart in danger, has to use his purification beads.
Solar Scarabs up to a great start, a roaring beginning to this game. 3-0, 3 kills in as many minutes. But Golden XP not reflecting it nearly as much as you would expect. I mean, half of that gold difference is just First Blood. It's been Camelot Kings farming the map incredibly well, but it doesn't matter how well you're farming if the Scarabs are going to keep this pace. Baronic finding that solo kill is massive.
And that's a big change from game number 1, where in game 1, we didn't see anything from Big Man Tings as far as stress onto him, but now we get to see the replay as Baronic gets that cheeky little solo kill, hits him with the sigil, and keeps him at bay, and with that ultimate, easily able to cleave him down.
Yeah, that was as simple as it's done. Baronic just lands all of his abilities, good mechanics on display there, and it seemed like to me, Big Man Tings was not putting enough respect onto this Morgan Le Fay. Could have used the ultimate to CC immune the Sigil Mastery, could have used the beads once he realized how much threat he was under, and maintains both of those cooldowns throughout, so at least still has that survivability, still has the additional mobility afforded to you just by merit of playing Yanis, so could potentially catch up to Baronic insofar as experience just by farming the map a little bit more efficiently, but as it stands, 1 level lead for the Morgan Le Fay.
Scream still creeping around the right side of the map, looking to steal some farm away and keep Variety at bay. SOT pushes him under the tower. He runs into Captain Twig and Genetics. Ragnarok used to immune the ultimate. Scream gets tagged by Big Man Tings through space and time, takes him out.
And now inbound left isolated, level 4, Sobek uses the pluck aggressively, maybe not. the best decision there as he's surrounded by
Huge
four. Great
sigil.
fear, though. Keeps him alive just for the moment.
Stunned and walled away. Genetics will lock down inbound as best he can, but so much damage from the birds and from Moronic. Able to take out Variety. Might
What
be
a
able to
turn.
grab Genetics. Lurking in the waters will hold him in place. And Moronic will pick up the double.
Solar Scarabs clearly have come to play this time around. Inbound, utilizing the healing from SOT, is able to survive that engagement. And Twig, who had fallen low initially in the fight, was not allowed to rejoin until just now, and maybe just getting caught.
Loses about half of his health just from a small combo from the Solar Scarabs. But inbound hitting level 5 first compared to Genetics gave him that ultimate advantage into the fight. The wall was good, but one thing we neglected to even mention is it's Aphrodite. She's got the Undying Love ultimate. That saves his life and helps him turn it around.
Just a wild exchange there with the Solar Scarabs trading aggro of the Camelot Kings the entire time, and eventually come out ahead, not only in the kill department, but also stripping away that blue buff. Variety has clearly had a lot more pressure put on him here in Game 2, has been ganked pretty consistently. I mean, that was a 4-man rotation from the Solar Scarabs, just again to put pressure onto his blue buff. Seems like the Scarabs identify that Variety really was the issue in Game 1. He was dealing a ton of damage, had a lot of sustainability, had a lot of tankiness before he was ever really looked at by the Scarabs, and rectifying it here in Game 2 has clearly been working out for him. 5-1 is the slash line, 6.5 minutes into this game, but that gold lead is still admittedly very small.
Not a huge lead developed from the Scarabs despite the 5 kills on the board. 1,400 gold, 2,000 experience in their favor. It's a much better early start for them than game number 1. A lot of it off the back of that solo laner, solo troll, and Scream as well, making big rotations. But 1-0-3 on your solo lane Aphrodite this early on, you gotta love those numbers.
You do, and a level lead for SOT as well. But I like what we're already seeing, adjustments being made from Captain Twig. Says, look, we haven't won the last 3 fights on the solo side. I'm not going back there. I don't want to play around SOT anymore. And instead starts to work his way through the Solar Scarabs back camps, their green buff, and maybe even towards Stewart.
Variety staring down 2, while Stewart sees Captain Twig walk by. Variety can be pushed away back towards his tower, and once again will lose out on the blue buff. Inbound walled away by Genetics. Freeze is good. Not good enough to hold him down for too long. He's able to make it back to safety.
Wow.
Double portal out of Big Man Tings. Gets a lot of damage. Unstable Vortex will clip him. Genetics fires a little bit of extra damage, but ultimately Inbound will make it back to the tower.
Yeah, Inbound very smart to hold on to the pluck there. You'd think that Genetics' wall being as clean as it was, and out of nowhere as it was, we would have seen the Sobek use the pluck immediately after coming out of the third ability from Mercury. But instead, realizing that he likely is locked down, holds onto it, waits it out, and eventually uses it to escape that engagement. Had he used the pluck earlier on, I mean, Mans is just dead regardless of having the ultimate available.
Friday not having as much fun this time around in solos. SOT's now able to juke away from some of the abilities. He's able to full clear, so minions will not be in Variety's favor any longer as they've hit the point where they can both full clear those waves pretty easily. Meanwhile, Netroid rotating back over into duo lane, and we don't really see any leads developed anywhere from the Camelot Kings. At best, Big Man Tings has caught back up to Moronic despite the disparity that he's had earlier on.
And it's just because he's Yanis, man. It's just the ability to clear these back camps so consistently, but this could be one place for the Kings to try and start their comeback, to mount some sort of effort here. Looks like Captain Twig is attempting a gank onto Stewart by lining up the ultimate down lane, but is immediately spotted out, and Stewart works his way into the jungle and says, all right, Mercury's over here. I'm no longer really interested in playing inside the match itself, and instead resets himself back to neutral.
Scream going for the Scorpion will be taken down. Genetics not able to slow him down in that process. Big Man Tings will rotate over to the back camp, grab 1. Genetics with a 2-man freeze. Okay. Variety there for some big heals, hoping for some big damage. Sonic Boom managed to find a hole. The Undying Love will keep Scream alive for the time being, but SOT's now down his ultimate and taking a lot of damage. Genetics still chasing through, drops through the portal. No unstable Vortex to follow. Too much healing. SOT is still alive in the midst of it. They can't get the last damage to take him out. Moronic has now made his rotation into the solo, and Inbound looking for a target. He'll grab Genetics and immediately force those beads.
2 distinct major chokes there from the Camelot Kings. Captain Twig pre-beats the Ragnarok ultimate from Scream. Yeah, Scream wasn't looking for you, bud. He was just trying to get out of there. So Twig gets no value from the beads, and Netroid doesn't get taken out by the ultimate here. Instead, makes its way up into the air. Stewart soloed by the Chaos Hunter. That is tough. That is a tough situation. Stewart was winning that fight handily.
Ult for ult. Captain Twig on his last leg. Baronic needs 3 swipes, but just gets out of range. Good jukes from Captain Twig. Netroid lazy backs in the lane, and Scream punishes him, taking him down.
That's crazy, man. And to go back what I was talking about on this solo side fight, I mean, all Big Man Tings had to do point blank was land the Unstable Vortex on SOT. I mean, he was maybe 20 in-game units away from him. Unfortunately, does not connect it, and SOT walks out with his life thanks to the Heavenly Sprint from inbound. That is major loss for the Camelot Kings. Had they picked up that kill on Aphrodite, this whole exchange goes so much better, but maybe not so much better because eventually Netroid is picked up by Scream.
And one of the big talking points that the desk brought up, and anytime I see any healer remotely in a game, it's the question of anti-heal application. Who's going to grab it? Big Man Tings, as mentioned with Giannis, not the best supplier of a Divine Ruin. Do you leave that now to Variety? Or where do the builds start adjusting from there? You got to get some anti-heal. You can't let SOT go without any anti-heal.
Think you could have maybe Variety pick up something like a Pestilence if he's looking towards magic defense. If not him, could be Genetics looking at the Pestilence himself. Ankh, always an option as well. But outside of that, Mercury doesn't apply it very well. Netroid doesn't apply it very well. It's all about that single target with Toxic Blade, which is generally a decent stat stick, but will slow down that build a lot for either one of these guys, Jungler or Hunter, on the side of the Camelot King. So I think you're right to bring that up. I'm interested to see where they start to allocate it. I know Gore said that he thought maybe we'd see Captain Twig go towards the Toxic Blade before crit, but I don't think he can afford to slow down his build that much at this phase of the game.
Genetics will help Variety clear the blue buff out, while Scream is looking elsewhere, looking at Captain Twig specifically, and now Genetics spotting him out. They're going to make sure to push Scream away and keep him from further invasions into the jungle. Now Pyromancer has spawned. It's been spawned for a little while, and they'll set their sights towards it. Solar Scarabs got it down well under half health. Genetics will walk forward with Variety. Immediately a leash of the Pyromancer inbound. Walks a little too far forward, takes a freeze. Tail Whip is good, Sonic Boom into the back. Solar Scarabs will get the Pyromancer. Captain Twig forces quite a few sets of Purification Beads because of it. But immediately the Solar Scarabs respond with getting out as quickly as they can. Wall from Genetics not going to catch out inbound.
Baronic is at least forced to use the Aegis there, and Scream forced to use the beads, but that's all that is expended insofar as relics for the Solar Scarabs. 4 ultimates are down. The only one not used is Stewart, who is in a 1v1 up against Netroid on the other side of the map. And Solar Scarabs, at the end of the day, do walk away with a Pyromancer to their name, but we got a nice little heat check from the Camelot Kings, and, well, the heat dictates that Variety is dealing a ton of damage. I mean, just that first ability did about 30% of Scream's HP bar, but you need a little bit more, and you need it to be consistently happening because Scream's going to be connected to SOT more often than not.
You always want to make sure that you've got your carry connected to that Aphrodite, and in this instance, it has been Scream more often than not in these last few games that the Scarabs have played, so keep your eyes peeled on where that kiss connects to in the midst of each of these fights. Gold Fury up. Pyromancer was dropped by Solar Scarabs. They did manage to secure that one despite the Sonic Boom from Captain Twig. Nobody's really trying to set up this Gold Fury just yet. Inbound and Baronic will rotate towards the left side of the map, but Genetics is in the wings.
It's a game of small advantages right now. Already Captain Twig does decide to go for anti-heal early on. Shadow Steel Shuriken selected for him is going to slow down his damage output a little bit, but still getting some of that crit available to him. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's Stewart going for crit this game on the Heimdall. Already has the Rage built, so likely the Solar Scarabs are going to start forcing some engagements around this Gold Fury. Utilize the lead while they have it. It's around 2,000 in their favor. Pyromancer already removed means there's only one neutral objective that's really doable 14 minutes into the game, and that is the Gold Fury itself. And it seems like that is the call. SOT makes the rotation, and as always, if your solo laner's there, it's probably happening.
It's all 5 for the Scarabs against the Gold Fury. Genetics and Netroid the only ones here. Big Man Tings trying to go for steal, but will not manage to find it. Solar Scarabs confirm the Gold Fury and a quick escape route. No further aggression from the Kings.
The Kings, though, despite losing out on all these engagements, despite not getting these neutral objectives, are keeping this gold lead pretty tight. It's only about 2,000 in favor of the Scarabs, and it's been 2,000 for a while.
Netroid and Stewart joined against Genetics. Inbound here as well, but inbound gets frozen. Very low in health. Stewart trying to go for the boxing match. Beads immediately out of Netroid. Yeah, he gets as well. Up into the sky he goes, but Bifrost is way too far away, so instead he'll go for the snipes on inbound, and Genetics will grab him with the ice shards.
And inbound does his job, dies for his ADC. Stewart makes his way out, but that Bifrost likely on cooldown for I want to say 60 seconds. Doug, maybe let us know here. I want to see how long that's down. That is a long teleport for Stewart, but tough situation now for the Solar Scarabs, who were trying to utilize their lead on this duo side of the map. Were not quite capable of doing so, and inbound gets caught out for his efforts. Camelot Kings, this just speaks to their veteranship, their seeding in the league. These guys, despite from playing from behind for actually 16 minutes straight now, are still making proactive plays on the map, be it a duo lane fight or a tier 1 tower in mid.
And they went 2 for 2 on those relics as well. You got the Aegis out of Stewart, both relics out of Netroid. The Heavenly Agility from inbound was used during that fight. So come out even on the relics, but not even the scores. We did see that inbound did manage to get picked up. Setting up for the Fire Giant. You see some ward control starting to be established by both these teams, trying to keep vision, while Variety over here on this Hell not had the same degree of success they did in Game 1, but they finally answered in kind to this Hell.
Eventually, Variety is going to get to do Hell things. I mean, he's only about a level down. He's finally got some tankiness under his belt. I think once he rotates out, that's really we're going to start to see the value. Because, again, Aphrodite has great healing, but it's single target.
A lot of damage against Captain Twig, but he'll make it out. But it's a hefty chunk. Just the Unchained and Brutalized. Maybe the Lovebirds with some extra damage puts Captain Twig to nearly a third of his health. Luckily, he had some backup. Otherwise, I can easily see Scream committing to that kill. Instead, they'll commit to the Fire Giant to start it up at the very least. Variety has shown face. Big Man Ting's Genetics on the way. They're going to back away and leash the Fire Giant just for the moment.
Yeah, Solar Scarabs think maybe they have an opportunity. They know they sent Captain Twig back to base. They spotted Big Man Tings already inside of his Phoenix, so try to pull the Fire Giant, but 17 minutes in, the damage is not great.
Big wall from Genetics, but an even better sigil from Baronic pushes Genetics away from inbound, allowing his support to live just a little while longer. And some heals come from SOT, try and top inbound's health bar back up.
But it wasn't free. Does cost inbound the lurking in the water, which is a great team fight tool. So the Camelot Kings, trying to make use of that cooldown being down, immediately start the Pyro.
Leap in by Scream after the Pyromancer goes down the way of the Kings. Scream's in the middle of 4, and he'll be shot down quickly. Variety gets the credit for the kill. Ult out of Genetics zones the rest of them away, and the Camelot Kings are fine with their prize of the Pyro and a kill.
Yeah, Scream got so used to having SOT as that pocket medic. Thinks he still has him, does not in that situation. Scream gets immediately eviscerated just by the damage of Natrioid, the damage from Variety, all enough to keep Scream honest inside of these engagements. And, well, he has 15 seconds of the grayscale screen to reflect on his problems there. Pyromancer goes the way of the Camelot Kings, and just speaking to it again, this gold lead, which has been constantly around the 2,000 mark, has finally started to circle back to neutral. We're talking 20 gold separating these two squads, and less than 500 experience separating them as well. This is a dead even match, 18.5 minutes in.
Stewart gets caught from the Bifrost. Netrioid looking for some snipes will take almost half of Stewart's health. Captain Twig with big ult, trying to immune a little bit of it, but Big Man Tings will ultimately close it out and get a nice kill for himself.
If I saw that right, I think Captain Twig intercepted the Heimdall ultimate mid-Sonic Boom. You're still CC immune. I didn't know that you're even tangible in Sonic Boom like that. That's the first time I've seen an interaction like that. And Stewart's got to be feeling bad. He's thinking, all right, well, I'm at least going to burn somebody's beads. Not the case. Just loses his life. Nice rotation from the Camelot Kings, and Primal Fury spawning very soon. Stewart dead for 20 seconds. Got to think that's where their eyes are set.
I've only seen 2 other crazy interactions like that one with the Sonic Boom, and both of them involve latching on to an enemy god. The first one being Serket with her ult. If you jump on the Mercury as he ults, travel with him, or at least it used to. I don't know if it still does it anymore. And the old Loki ultimate as well used to. You would actually chase him all the way, like, all right, cool, I got away. Loki right behind you at the end, stabs you in the back. Just like they're stabbing down the Primal Fury. Camelot Kings will grab that one with no contest. Inbound gets a big plug, but immediate wall is going to save his life for the time being. Inbound falls into the portal. has the Undying Love to save his life for the time being, but Netroid will seal the deal, taking him down. SOT at half. Scream leaps to the back line of his own team just for safety, but the wall from Genetics again will zone SOT. No ult to save his life. Netroid picks him up for the double.
Look, we talked about it on Waiting Room earlier this week. Do you have to ban Genetics Ymir? And I don't remember if I said yes. Let me rectify that. You need to ban Genetics as Ymir because he's changing these engagements. Not only does he reaction wall inbounds pluck to save Captain Twig's beads, but he also, that wall was so well placed, Ragnarok couldn't get through it either, and well, the Camelot Kings 2 for 0. Looking at the Fire Giant Solar Scarabs, they know better, cannot step up with just 3 members. Fire Giant now on 5, 4 towers still standing for the Scarabs, and the Camelot Kings now starting to run away with it. This might be the largest gold separation we've seen this game, and it's in favor of the Kings.
Fury, Fire Giant, 2 kills, looking for more. Camelot Kings head towards the right side of the map. Stewart, knowing that he can't do much against the Kings at this time, decides to split push, gets a tier 1 tower.
Yikes.
Captain Twig's not going to let him go so easily, throws him against the wall, and picks up a nice solo kill for himself.
Gotta back behind a wall, or you gotta back inside the jungle when there's a Mercury on the enemy team. Stewart just getting caught out there. A little bit of a lazy back after taking out that tier 1 tower, and well, he doesn't win that 1v1. Does at least have the wherewithal to maintain his relics, realizing there's not much he can do up against Captain Twig on his own. So, Beads and Aegis still available to Heimdall in 35 seconds once he respawns.
The team is a little spread out right now for the Kings. They haven't decided where their primary target is going to be for towers. They've cleared everything on the right side. They still have 2 towers in duo lane and the tier 2 in mid. It looks like they're at least going to start grouping to the left side of the map and clear out that first tier 1 tower. That'll get them 500 gold, another 1,500 as soon as they decide to set sights towards tier 2.
Yeah, I think the timer of it is going to correspond directly with when those archers get into the tier 2, and that's exactly the case. Variety and Big Man Tings just split pushing. I mean, no Hunter here, but no problem. These guys chunk towers just fine on their own. Seems like the Camelot Kings are taking a much more calculated pace to this one. I wouldn't be overly surprised if we see Captain Twig act as solo agent and try and push out mid, while the rest of his team pressures down this left.
Big wall will push Stewart and inbound to make additional pass ultimate out of Netroid. Very questionable. Inbound charges forward with SOT, but inbound falls through the portal. Scream frozen on contact as soon as he lands in. Inbound has to lurk in the water. Nobody gets caught by that Sonic Boom ult, but inbound still too far forward. Captain Twig grabs him. So much damage from the Odysseus bow out of Stewart. Wall for Genetics zones him away. Galahorn and the ultimate of the rounds will find one, but Netroid picks up Stewart in the process. And as soon as Variety lands, though, he's got a big heal to keep himself alive.
If Genetics doesn't have his head on his shoulders to keep him alive, Variety would have died. Nice wall, isolates Baronic, but the rest of the Camelot Kings are too low HP. But as I say it, Variety's abilities come up, and, well, their HP goes up with them. Camelot Kings now resurging on the offense.
Genetics is another wall under the Phoenix, catches Baronic, who has no relics anymore, uses the beads, uses the Aegis. No defensive relics left for the Scarabs aside from the beads on SOT. Genetics taking a lot of damage from the tower, but the Phoenix will ultimately fall. Scream leaps right over Captain Twig. He's going back in to find a target, but he gets cleansed instantly by Variety.
And now it's all about walking away. The Camelot Kings still at the full minute on this Fire Giant power player. Back up to full HP, and it seems like they realize it at the exact same time we do. Turn on their heel and dare the Scarabs to step up.
Through space and time, trying to find somebody. SOT just a little too quick on the Aphrodite, and inbound makes it away as well. Baronic on the chase alongside them, but the Camelot Kings make a hasty retreat back to the jungle.
J-Mac, take a peek at these relics right now. Solar Scarabs have 1 available, and it's the beads on SOT. Meanwhile, 4 sets of beads, 2 Aegises still available to the Camelot Kings. Solar Scarabs trying to chase them out there, but I'm not sure they realize how stacked in favor the Kings are insofar as just the relics inbound. Stepping up, maybe separating the Kings here, but the disengage is clean. They already taken the Phoenix. Might as well just head on back to base, spend all that well-fought-for gold, 2,000 in hand for Captain Twig right now, so he's going to hit a massive power spike once he decides what he wants. This is a tough one now for the Solar Scarabs. We're approaching a 7,000 gold lead. Camelot Kings have timer on the Fire Giant, spawning in just under 1 minute. And the hardest lane to defend, the left side, the duo lane, Phoenix, has been removed. Someone's got to push up those waves, and there's really no global presence here from the Solar Scarabs. They have to do it the old-fashioned way.
I'm scouring through not just the relics, but the items as well, and I'm only seeing a single form of... Okay, 2 forms. Brawler's Beatstick from Scream, but it's 1 Brawler's Beatstick and 1 Curse Donk for a Hell. And I don't think that's enough anti. Now, I've played my fair share of Hell and got whooped by my fair share of Hells as well, and you have to have 3, 4, 5 forms of anti-heal to deal with her, especially when you get to this late game. And I don't know if a single anti-heal application item from 1 player and an AoE one from inbound is going to be enough.
I mean, there's not too much anti-heal on the side of the Camelot Kings either. Worth noting that SOT is playing the Aphrodite. It's the Shadow Steel Shuriken and the Divine Ruin selection from Variety, not even an Ankh selection on the side of the Camelot Kings. But to speak to your point, Hell heals everybody at the same time, and Aphrodite heals 1 guy a lot. And generally, it's going to be Scream, the recipient of that Aphrodite kiss. Now it's Scream also stepping forward into the Fire Giant pit. Camelot Kings establish the defensive positioning here, and the Solar Scarabs, they want to fight.
Inbound gets a pluck. Genetics throws up a wall instantly. Freeze comes through, but not going to find anybody on top of that. Inbound in the midst of everyone. The Undying Love used to keep the support alive. Netroid up into the sky looking for the snipes. Finds 1, 2, third is going to miss from inbound. But only 1 ultimate left for both teams. Baronic actually just used his, so it's even down. Only Genetics remains with an ult.
And watch these HP bars of the Camelot Kings. Yeah, they're just going up while doing the Fire Giant, but the Solar Scarabs similarly are very healthy, can put up a defense here, but maybe thinking better of it. No ultimates available really, so instead going to go ahead and reset back to neutral, especially considering inbound forced to defend that left-hand side Phoenix. Wow. Camelot Kings now Fire Giant on 5 members. Can they do it again? We're starting to look at this siege. All the Kings have to do is step up, look for a little bit of poke, burn through some of the resources of the Scarabs, back up again and say, hey, Variety, maybe slam me with that 3rd ability. Just make sure you're in the light stance.
Wall from Genetics, zones away 2. Stunned before he could get the freeze for Scream. Picks him up with the Ragnarok to bring him back to Baronic. Genetics is in trouble, uses the ultimate just to channel some damage, but the Phoenix is already gone, and the Camelot Kings on retreat because of it. SOT and Scream surging forward, but they're not going to find anything else.
Left side Phoenix spawning up very soon here. I think the Solar Scarabs would have liked to have chased out that engagement a little bit more, but realizing they need to maintain the base, have to rotate over to the duo lane, and it's Stewart clearing out the wave. Good defense from the Solar Scarabs there, immediately isolating Genetics, the sole frontliner for the Camelot Kings, and put him down. Just Ragnarok and set him in front of Stewart, and Stewart, being the hunter that he is able to put him down from there. But the Camelot Kings still have Fire Giant on 4 members, and for a good deal of time, about 2 or so minutes, 3 minutes really, for them to have that Fire Giant buff around their belts. And that left side Phoenix is permanently damaged. I mean, it's going to heal up a little bit, but maybe not in time for the Camelot Kings to just go ahead and walk on up.
Yeah, we'll never go back up to full once it's been broken. SOT has been attached to inbound a lot in these last few fights, and while it's worked out for them, it has helped quite a bit. Scream's probably wishing he had those Undying Loves for his initial initiations, but you can never go wrong if you can keep all 5 members alive by just keeping the tank alive. Can't argue too much against it. Big man Tings will head towards the Draugr to make sure they can strip that defense away from the Scarabs.
Camelot Kings, though, I mean, I just keep looking at these relics, and they're always available. I mean, Frenzy's up. All 5 beads going to be up in about 3 seconds here. The only thing that's going to be down for this next team fight is Captain Twig's Aegis, and that's legitimately it. The item advantage goes the way of the Kings. Ultimates all available to both teams, and, well, the relics available to the Solar Scarabs as well, barring the meditation.
Inbound, frozen, stuck behind a wall, loses a quarter of its health. The wall makes sure that Genetics doesn't get plucked too far back. Scream with the Ragnarok, looking for a target, but won't be able to grab anybody. Stewart falls to Big Man Ting, snipes from Netroid. Not enough damage. Captain Twig is in the backline. He snuck back and used the portal to sneak back to the rest of the team. Netroid with another kill on the board. Baronic takes down Variety, but Scream is looking a little worse for wear, and Netroid will grab him for the double kill.
That took a little bit longer, but now finally Camelot Kings knocking on the door of the Titan. They thought, the Scarabs that is, that door was going to stay open between these Phoenixes. Unfortunately, Genetics is a builder, and he just put a wall up, and they were all stuck inside the jungle with the entirety of the Camelot Kings. Left side Phoenix does fall here, but they're low HP. Variety being dead means that it's just Fire Giant and builds keeping them alive right now. Camelot Kings take a slower pace here, not stepping into the Titan room and instead towards his tier 2 tower.
And they can take that one very quickly. They got the Fire Giant buff, but look how many minions are about to pour through the right side of the map. One wave already at the throne room, another passing by the Phoenix. A couple minions will get stopped by the wave, but ultimately, Scarabs, they got to play defense now.
They do, and Gold Fury being looked at again by the Camelot Kings, and this gold lead, I didn't even realize how far we'd ballooned out of control. 15,000 in favor of the Camelot Kings, but these team fights are close. They are nice edge separating these two squads. Solar Scarabs gonna have to work a little bit harder. If they do win out on a team fight cleanly, however, I think they can just go ahead and barrel down the Titan room this late into the game, despite not having any Phoenixes exposed. As long as Stewart and one tank is alive at the end, they should be able to get at least one bird off of the Camelot Kings, but the same can be said of the Kings, and with less execution required, as they do have the gold lead, as they do have the map advantage lead as well. Fire Giant respawning in just under a minute. Last time around, we saw the Scarabs step up to defend, but that was only when the left side Phoenix was down. Now they're contending with right and left. We'll see how they respond.
Just under a minute till Fire Giant respawns. Camelot Kings are trying to establish ward control. You can already see one in the pit. Solar Scarabs, they still have to defend their 2 lanes. They can't stick around the fights for too long, and because of the staggered respawns of the Phoenix, all that damage to the Titan is not going to get healed back up. Not until all 3 Phoenixes are back and available to them. The Kings have already stepped into the Fire Giant pit and are getting ready for its respawn. Meanwhile, the Solar Scarabs a little bit further back towards that lane.
Keep your eyes on Stewart. Captain Twig trying to reprise that play from earlier. Peeks his head into the lane, doesn't see Stewart, and immediately leaves. Doesn't want to show himself on that minion wave, because if he does so, the Solar Scarabs will know that there is an advantage state around the Fire Giant fight itself. So Twig, rightfully so, rotates back to his team.
So team loses down on a huge chunk of health because of that freeze, followed by the damage from Big Man Tings. Captain Twig spots out inbound, throws him into the clutches of the rest of the Kings, and he's already gone. Front line from the Solar Scarabs just got diminished.
That's, again, thanks to the stealthy play of Captain Twig. Had he shown himself on the wave, inbound would have known where he is coming from, but has no clue and gets caught out.
Fire Giant through space and time just clips Baronic and Stewart. Stewart barely managed to get out because of the Bifrost, but Baronic won't have that same luxury. The eggs and beads will only delay the inevitable. Captain Twig finds Scream. SOT is having a solo fight with Big Man Tings, but Big Man Ting doesn't care. He's got more than enough damage to deal with this Aphrodite. He has to use the Aegis, but the rest of the team surging towards the Titan. Captain Twig comes back for support, but it's Stewart alone on defense.
Twig just doing his best to make sure SOT can't get back to base. Great decision making here from the Mercury and the rest of the boys looking at the Titan. It's all up to Stewart, and well Stewart's dead. It's all up to SOT, and he's in a different zip code and has Captain Twig annoying him. Titan's gonna fall.
Are they waiting? Okay, no, I thought they were going to wait to see if they get the kill on SOT, but the Camelot Kings will close it out. A very tight-knit battle to start it out, Mifflin. It wasn't all easy for the Camelot Kings. No. Took them a little while to get there. They really did struggle in that early game, especially over at the solo lane.
They did. The solo lane fights were going the way of the Scarabs the entire time, but there was a point in that game where I think the slash line was 6-1 in favor of the Scarabs, and the gold lead never went past 2,000. The experience never really went past 2,000. The Scarabs, despite winning out on team fight after team fight for the first 12, 15 minutes of the game, weren't able to go towards the neutral objectives.
And with that, the Camelot Kings close out game number 2 with a big set win, but we'll bring it back to the desk after the break to break it down.
Welcome back to the SMITE Pro League, everybody. The Camelot Kings stumble in the early game, but ultimately were able to turn it around and find the 2-0 victory, thanks to Variety on the Hell, among other things, of course. But before we get into breaking it down a little bit further, got to give a quick shout-out to our title sponsor for Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. That is, of course, Alienware. Of course, all of our pros are playing on those awesome Alienware Aurora R10 Ryzen Edition desktops and playing on their 25-inch, 240Hz Alienware monitors. Make sure you're heading on over to smitegame.com/Alienware and using code SMITEAW in order to secure the best deals possible. And you're following Alienware on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. At Alienware is the place that you can find all the latest news on their great products and deals. Gormizer, look, overall, the Kings continue to do what the Kings do. They don't stress about the early game. They get a little bit behind. Who cares? We're going to get there, and we're going to out-team fight them. And another day that ends in Y and another victory for the Kings.
And they did a good job of, I want to call it like damage control, mitigation of what the Scarabs were doing. I mean, the Scarabs had a phenomenal start. They get 2 kills over in solo. They get a solo kill in mid for Boronic up against Tings. It feels like nothing but success for them, and they continue that route for a little bit further in the game. But you can see the gold lead, and if you watch it throughout that early game, it never really changes much further than the 2,000, maybe 3,000 gold mark. And they were up 5-1, then they go up 6-1, 6-2, and then it's 6-6 all of a sudden, and then it shifts dynamically heavily towards the Kings. They get 7 kills towards the end there for the Scarabs, and you can just see that the discomfort that is rising for them versus where the Kings are, which is exactly as you had highlighted. I mean, you're looking at this team, you've still got Giannis, who feels like he's going to hit better late game, Hell, who's better late game, Rom, great walls from Genetic, but also a Mercury on your team. Like, everybody there aged like a fine wine. And so for the most part, the Scarabs, even with such, brilliant early game control, still had some of those notable mistakes towards the late game where things started to fall apart for them, and that's what they have mentioned in a lot of their interviews for these pre-game interviews, and what I think a lot is going to have to pivot, because their duo lane here is 0-11 combined, or 0-11 combined. Yep. It's just something that they've got to figure out and work on, because those late game pivots are not treating them well.
Look, Netrioid and Big Man Tings just were able to put in work in this game too, Gord. They were under very little threat. 30,000 damage and 28,000 damage for the back line of the Camelot Kings. And when those guys are able to stay safe and do that kind of DPS, you're going to win a lot of games. Netrioid in particular on this ROM, you've highlighted it. You know, Artemis Open, who cares? Give me the ROM instead, and this is probably why.
Yeah, did double the damage Stewart was capable of. I mean, 30,000 is a remarkable number to be able to hit right there. And then you also got to see how well, again, the ult could zone people out, follow things up. It really allowed, I think, kind of that mid to late game pivot for people like Twig to come online as well, to really step up and just start to the point where, I mean, he's isolating and controlling SOT at the very end of the game. There's nothing you can do against it.
Well, Twig definitely made a pretty big impact in this set, and we've got him standing by for the post-game interview. Ben, thanks for taking the time. Look, this is not the most jungler-friendly meta. I think that we can all say that with some certainty. How has that changed how you view your impact on the game as a competitive jungler?
Well, after they ban the 3 gods that have any impact at all or influence on the game, top 3, then I can just sit back and say both junglers are going to do nothing, and it doesn't matter what they do this game. I can maybe build some crit and do some objectives, so that's what I did.
There you go. You're the objective doer. You know, you can go and do it that way. Look, if you get triple banned at the top, you've done your job, right? Your team can win the picks and bans from there. And that includes taking Hell for Variety. Healer is kind of a focus in the solo lane. Do you worry that your team has maybe opened Pandora's box by having Variety play so well on the Hell solo?
Absolutely. No one likes playing against Hell. No one likes playing against Afro either. It's really unfun you can't really punish those picks anymore in the jungle. They can just rush a Fizz Pro item and they can kill you, but you definitely can't kill them. So we definitely have opened Pandora's box a little bit. I hope that teams are able to find a way to beat them, because I don't think anyone wants them in the SMITE games.
Well, Twig, a 2-0 week for you guys, including a big win over the Bolts earlier on. Do you think that the Camelot Kings are playing their best Smite of the season right now?
Absolutely not. I literally died for first blood pre 5 minutes both games. Big man got soloed, which is always fun. We're playing great Smite. Netroid is carrying his brains out right now. He's playing great Smite. He soloed Stuart. He won the set against the Bolts by himself. He is carrying us really hard, and if he plays like this at Worlds, there's no chance for the other teams.
Well, there you go. Netroid's playing his best Smite of the season, so by extension, the Kings are as well. It's simply that easy. Good. Congratulations on your win, Twig, and good luck next week.
Thank you.
You heard it right there, Gore. I mean, junglers struggling in the meta, but it doesn't matter if your ADC is just going to pop off and do everything for you.
Twig, I can imagine sitting there like, okay, so maybe I'll play like Osiris, Erlong, or Gilgamesh, and he sees one goes through. He's like, all right, I still got 2 picks here. And he sees the other one. He's like,
great.
All right, so maybe one more, baby. I mean, their first pick, they're going to scoop it away. It gets banned, then Finra gets taken away. He's like, all right, you guys have fun. I'm going to play some Smite. We'll see what happens.
Look, he did his job, right? I opened up the draft for you guys. You're welcome at that. And with that, the Camelot Kings now tied in wins, though slightly behind because of the extra game played in comparison to the Bolts, sitting at 8-2 pretty comfortably in that second seed right now. The Kings, with Netroid playing the way he is, looking pretty good.
And the Titans have a chance to tie the Kings up for first. If they can beat the Bolts will be right there. And then you start to look at head-to-head, which technically, I mean, it was a 2-0 one time, a 2-1 the other time the Kings and Bolts played, so they go match to match. It's definitely a much more interesting scenario for the standings up top than I was hoping it to be. Granted, I was also, I will admit, rooting for it to be a 10-0 at one point, not necessarily because I want to root for the Bolts, but because I think that's an insane run to make.
Sure.
But now that's been ruined. I don't care what happens up there. I want chaos in the standings.
Let chaos reign. That's definitely the call here with how it is going. So we'll see if that actually ends up happening. If the Bolts do end up dropping to the Tartarus Titans, we got to throw it to a quick break, and we'll be right back with the second set of the SPL Day.